Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I'm joined by the one, the only SD1. How are you doing, SD1?
Fantastic, Colin.
People might be saying, where's Joe 748? Well, he had to head home. We just did a boot camp, another successful boot camp in the book, and he had places to be, people to see, dogs to care for, and we did not quite yet.
He's a big man about town. He's an important guy.
So what we're going to do is a mailbag. We got a whole bunch of questions that we're going to try to get to. We'll get to as many as we can in the time allotted, but it's been a really busy day. We had to play pickleball with Spartan and another BJA member, and then we had to get massages and hang out in the hot tub. So
yeah, it was a lot to do.
A lot to get done today. Fix it broken table. But here we are. So let's get right into our questions. I want to start with these because these are right up your alley. It says, can you give tips on making an act? Without giving too much info away, can you explain acts you use?
Yeah, so I actually do. This is one of the presentations at boot camp where I go into this way more in depth. But first and foremost, I definitely need to say that with an act, your game cannot suffer. And the first thing you need to remember is your game comes first. And you would be astounded by how much trying to put on an act can hurt your game if you're not automated. So be automated first. Then we're going to start working on an act. The biggest tip that I can give is spend time in a casino and watch gamblers. You need to identify a gambler that is of similar personality to you, extrovert, introvert, how they behave at the table. Watch them, studying them, see how they act when they lose, see how they act when they're joking around, see how they act when they win. And that's what you need to do times 10.
That plays into this next question. I think you just answered it, but this other question says, my normal demeanor at blackjack table is to not really talk much and keep to myself. Any advice on things to add or change? Observe introverts in the casino.
Right. Introverts gamble too, unfortunately. People of all types gamble. Introverts are definitely going to be celebrating differently than I would. What I would say is a tighter reaction. I don't know how to explain it other than that than to show it, but they might slam a fist on the table, but it's not a full-on extroverted slam. It's a very tight reaction. They still converse just in an introverted way, and you just have to think about that, and you have to act like that. The biggest thing that you're trying to do with an act is make them just think you're a gambler.
Not look like a card counter.
Right.
There's ways to do that. You could still be an introvert, but yeah, observation is key. All right. Thank you. We're not going to go into more or else it would steal the thunder from your boot camp talk. Our next few questions are about investors. Have you ever bankrolled anyone?
Yes.
So
bankrolling somebody now.
If people want to be bankrolled, SD1 at freemoney.com. No, we'll get into the questions. Okay. I've been a weekend warrior for about a year now, and after growing my bankroll steadily, a friend approached me about investing. I really want to give them a fair contract, but looking around, I can't find a lot of consensus about what investing in a card counter should look like. The amount they're offering to invest would increase the bankroll by about 20% for the next 30-hour trip. So I was thinking give them 10% of the winnings over the course of the next trip, or else cover 10% of the losses. So really the big question is, what is fair for an investor? And can I start this one off?
100%. This is your area of expertise.
The first thing I would say is, do you really need it? You have to say, how much is it going to impact your EV? Okay, great. You can bet 20% more. Well, you're also going to have more heat, more back-offs, larger swings, not for 20% more money, for 10% more money if you're going to split it with them. That's the first thing. I think a lot of people, it's like, great, more money, but you have to decide. There are situations where it's great to have an investor, where it's going to open up more valuable games. But I think a lot of people jump into the idea of, oh, my friend will hand me money, or a family member wants to invest in me, and they're like, oh, I should do it, when you really might be better off grinding and building your own bankroll. And not having the relational challenges of they don't understand when you're losing, or I've seen many things go afoul. And I always tell people, I never lost sleep losing my own money. I definitely lost sleep when our team was losing family and friends' money.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think I drew the most from when you talk about this topic is, do they really understand the math and how often you lose? 49% of the time you lose, 51% you win, plus or minus 1 point. It's rough for you, but how are you going to feel when it's somebody else's money? And how are they going to feel when you go on a 200-hour losing streak? Do they actually understand? Can they actually handle that?
Yes. Okay, so here's another question. Does anyone else have any experience with investors using their money wisely, treating them fairly? The definition of fair is what two people can agree to and feel good about. So I've been a part of blackjack teams where investors got 30 to 40%, and I've been a part of blackjack teams where investors got 80%.
Yep.
That's like massive swing, but it's because what was more needed. If you need the bankroll and there's plenty of people willing to put in plenty of hours, then the money is more valuable. If you don't really need the money, church team had a point where we're turning investors away. Their money was less valuable. And honestly, if I had to do over, I would have turned more money away. So there would have been more money to go back to the players. But what's fair is what two people feel good about.
Yeah, and situations are different. Is it party A is bankrolling 100% of the player? Is there mixed money? Are they both playing? Is one playing? And then extrapolate that out to multiple people. Like, there's so much variance in it that, back to what Colin said, you have to decide what you guys can agree upon and what's fair.
Yeah. To me, the simplest blackjack team would be 2 to 4 people that all invest the same amount, are all willing to put in close to equal hours with the same skill of game, and then half the money goes to the investor pool, half the money goes to the player pool based on EV generated, investor pool, I guess if everybody invests the same amount, then everyone gets an equal cut of that 50%. But if there's not, that's not always possible. So the simplest thing is half the money goes to investor pool proportionately, half of it goes to player pool proportionately. But just think about if it's really worth taking on an investor. And then if so, what is going to really be fair? Because a lot of investors think, oh, you're going to be coming home with more money for me every night. And that is not true.
Yeah, and I just want to add one more thing. So the person that I'm bankrolling right now, and I've had one other instance of doing this, but the person I'm bankrolling now is really close to me. My goal is to be out of the picture as soon as possible. And he is on his own. So yes, I'm going to make money on this. That's not the way I'm looking at it. This is to help him, kickstart him, and quickly, if he works hard, get him off, get my money back, and then he's on his own.
Yeah, I think that's great, because if you're in a situation where it's kind of like always dependent, it's hard to see that working for a really long time.
Yeah.
That's great input. How do yearly taxes and card counting intersect? I don't want to talk about taxes.
Me neither.
Yeah, there's Gambling with an Edge podcast with Russ Fox. You can listen to those, but I am choosing to override the tax question.
I'll just add one thing to it. Pay your taxes and get a CPA that understands gambling.
Yep, that's our official advice. It's worked for me over the years. All right. What is the optimal minimum bankroll for card counting? Ooh, optimal minimal.
Optimal minimal. Optimal is never minimal.
That's a good point. Well, I'll say this. What is the game? I used to play some $2 blackjack games, $2 tables that were beatable rules, and you didn't need much of a bankroll for that. Maybe it might be nice to have $1,000 or $2,000 bankroll to beat that. Now your EV might be $1 an hour. But if you're playing a $100 minimum, so the quality of the game matters, the limits of the game matter. Yeah, rules, deck penetration, how low you want your risk, and also how big you want to bet, how much EV you want to generate. Unfortunately, there's not, but I guess I would say It's impossible because it depends where you are in the country.
It is. And it's also a matter of like, are you specifically asking an optimal bankroll to go full time? I mean, if you're not full time and you have a job, well, then whatever you can scrounge up, go at it and build it because you're not dependent on it. Full time, that's a much different situation. And I feel like that goes up every year.
It does. I feel like if you have less than 5K, you're going to be kind of taking a shot. Like even if you're somewhere with $10, $15 tables, if you have less than a 5K bankroll, your risk is going to be high. Like, taking a shot to me is like you might have 10% risk of ruin.
And the 5K situation, you're talking about young, no family, no wife.
I don't mean full time. I just mean I want to start generating EV. That this is my bankroll. I just did a bankrolls and bet spread talk, and longing in, there might be a situation where you keep your risk at 3% with a 5K bankroll, but you're not going to be making life-changing money there. But I sure wasn't. I was playing $7 an hour games. The nice thing about card counting is how it does scale. You double your bankroll, you can generate twice as much EV. You double it again, then that's how we went from $7 an hour to playing games that were on average $200 an hour in less than a year.
Yeah, it scales until it doesn't, but yeah. It definitely scales for a long time. And the really nice thing, I never experienced this. I didn't start with a 5K bankroll. I was fortunate enough to start off with 50, but from what I understand, there is next to no heat when you're at that level, which is really nice.
Yeah, definitely. That is nice. Maybe if you go to Slots of Fun and you bet green, you bet up to $25, you can get back off. But generally, there's very little heat. And enjoy that time. Because we're now going to talk about the other side, which is what bankroll size are APs that have won 6 to 7 figures playing with? What's the max bankroll to bet on most tables? You're right. It scales until it doesn't. You're not going to make $10,000 an hour. You'd have to find a spectacular game to generate $1,000 an hour of EV.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this at the boot camp, Joe and I. What would you say is kind of that maximum bankroll size that's really needed?
I'd say if you're going to and have the ability to play the whole country and travel at will, which you should if you're a card counter, and you can hit some choice games that will take the action. And by the way, there just are not that many places that'll take 2 by 1,000, 2 by 1,500, 2 by 2. There are not that many of them. But for the sake of being able to play those games, I would be comfortable with 400, 500K.
Oh, wow. I was going to say 200 is where you start to not really need more than that. Yeah?
No. Just because, okay, so let's play scenario games. You are able to get time in on those few games that let you go up to 2 times 1,500. And as luck, aka variance, would have it, those are the games you get destroyed on. 200K, that would really be tough for me. Because now you're in a situation where your 200K is, say, 100K. And if you're full-time, you're living off of that money. That's a scary situation for me, even if I were single.
Oh, yeah. I'd have enough saving.
Yeah, well, that's a qualifier. You didn't say that, Colin.
I didn't say that. Yeah. We used to bet up to 2 by 2,000. You would definitely want more than 200K for that. It looks like you would want about 300K to bet up to 2 by 2,000.
Okay, I can believe.
So, yeah, if it's betting up to 2 by 1,500, looks like you can get by at the kind of game that I think you would find. Ooh, yeah, you're right. You'd want more than 200, maybe 250,000.
So I'm conservative. So I'd say 400 would make me feel safe.
I was being a little too optimistic about what you'd want to be betting those limits. So yeah, if you want to bet up to 2 by 1,000, you could probably do that with a 200K bankroll and still have 1% risk. And I'm talking play through all negatives and all that. But there aren't a lot of places that'll take higher than that. I do some phone calls, bankroll coaching with people that have massive bankrolls. They're like, well, why wouldn't I just go in and bet 2 spots at 10,000 and I'm going to make, a couple $1,000s an hour and I'll just do that for an hour a day. And it's like, yeah, the casinos won't be able to handle that. They're going to freak out if anybody's betting like that.
They're scared if a ploppy lays down that much, to be quite honest with you. Dana White has been kicked out of places not because he's an advantage player, but because they're literally scared of his action.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh, man. He's definitely not. Someone just sent me this interview, and he's talking about, well, when the cards aren't coming out right, you just have to do crazy things.
Right.
He's like, I follow the book, but when the cards are coming out and you're just losing handed, you got to do crazy things. You got to split tens. And he's not counting. You got to. He gave multiple examples of just bad basic strategy in order to change the flow of the cards.
And I think that's how I explained it exactly in Tales from the Felt, available for sale.
That's right. All proceeds go to charity.
Like, seriously, what I observed was he mostly plays by the book until he doesn't. And he'll just do these gut feel things. That's how I saw him play for sure. But the primary reason is like a player playing that big of action can go on a good run. And they don't want that. And that's why he was backed off of casinos, because they're scared of the action. So now double down on that and think about a person with an edge betting that.
Well, I also play by the book most of the time until I don't. But it's not a gut feeling. And the casinos also don't want my action.
Right. That's true.
All right. I don't know if I have an answer to this, but we'll see if you do. How can we build and manage a multi-currency bankroll? I live in Canada, also want to play in the US. However, the bankroll is limited. I want to separate into two smaller portions, one for Canadian casinos, one for US casinos.
I mean, at that point, so are you playing with that combined bankroll or not?
Yeah. It seems like there's two issues. One would be, how do you calculate the risk? And I guess if it were me, I would say, this is my full bankroll. I just might have to convert some of it. If I go on a US losing streak, I might have to convert some of my Canadian bankroll to US. So then the risk, I would use the full bankroll, but then I guess the practical would be, I'd use the trip bankroll.
Yeah, I was going to say, so 2 trip bankrolls.
And say, well, what games am I playing in Canada? What games am I playing in the US? What's the trip risk, like over 50 hours or 100 hours of each bankroll, and then decide what portion of my bankroll to have in each. What you don't want to have to do is change money all the time and just get hammered by the conversion rate. But yeah, you technically have the full bankroll.
I guess I would maybe think about there being instances where you would have to convert. So maybe you would proactively lower your spread because you know that's a cost to the business. So you play a lower risk of ruin, and you're going to have to settle with some lower EV because you're going to offset with something that might be unavoidable.
Yeah, you could make that decision. Man, it is the worst when you're short on cash because you've got too much of it in chips, or in this situation, in another currency.
Or Bitcoin.
You're too long on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I guess my advice is I would calculate my EV and risk based off of the full bankroll, but just be willing to, I wouldn't want that, like some of the money to be, oh, Casey had this inside the Edge.
Oh, that's right.
Where he had to fly across the country just to get more cash.
Yep. Because that's when he went to the RV after that, didn't he?
Yeah.
When he had to, yeah.
And I've been on a trip where we're short on cash, and like some people are not playing because there's not enough money to go around. And that's a loss of EV. Had to do the like long drives to get more cash from, players on our team that didn't bring enough money with them. And it's like, how do we get money to them as soon as possible so they can generate more EV? It's just like a really crummy practical situation you can find yourself in. So I wouldn't want too much too far away.
Yeah, me neither.
If so, then I would do what you said, like probably underbet a little bit to keep the trip risk lower, because the alternative is having to fly back and get more money.
Yeah, and that's expenses and time lost at the tables. It's a quantifiable kick in the nuts.
Well, for our next quantifiable kick in the nuts, this question is, how do I count my hours if I'm wonging in and out? And if I have a 2-hour session of just negative count, do I count that when I calculate my hourly rate?
The incorrect answer would be, it's how you want to qualify it. You can do just time at the table, or you can do I'm working and this is time in. But technically speaking, when you're wonging, you are working because you're playing, not playing. You're saving yourself rent.
Yes. The other players are playing those below 0,
right,
or below true 1, below true 2 counts for you. The important thing is, like, if you legitimately are going to wong in, don't go to the casino and back count for 10 hours, never wong in and be like, I just generated all this EV. But
right.
I mean, I'm not saying someone's going to do that, but we always called it hours played or observed, knowing that observing is just rent-free time. What matters is positive rounds per hour played, but observing is, like you said, like, you're in the betting software. We're actually adding a wonging option in the betting software by the end of the year. The reason being, there is this minutia of difference of EV. If you put 0 for the bet, that's assuming you're eating up cards. If you say, hey, there's 2 other players at the table, I'm betting 0, then it's eating up the cards of 3 players. When you're not actually, you're only eating up the cards of 2 players. But until we add that feature, just put 0 bets in there, and that's essentially what you're playing. And when we have the wonging feature, then it'll give you a little bit more accurate EV for that because it's not eating as many cards. But you are doing what has to be done to get to those positive counts just for less rent.
Yeah, it's as if you are playing. You're just getting free cards. It's not costing you anything.
Ooh, here's one. I want to hear some stories of how many times you have split tens on multiple hands on the same round. I've got a story. Do you have a story?
Yeah, you go first though. You lit up. I want to hear this.
Yeah. I remember playing at, the local honey hole, and
I know that one.
and, get some monster count. And we used to play it that at a high enough count, let's say it's true 7, we're playing all 7 spots of 500. And I get the 10s and I split them again, and I split them. I got 10 split to 4 hands, and the dealer draws to 21 just as my teammate shows up at the casino and walks by, curses, and keeps walking. So that is the splitting 10 story I remember. I mean, I must have had 11, 12 bets out there between splits and double downs, and just lost all of them on the hand. Maybe I had a single 21 out there that didn't lose, but probably not.
My memorable one was I was playing with one other player, and it was versus 5. Probably like 200 hours in, I decided that I was not going to split right at like a 5 true count versus a 5. I wanted a little higher for all those deviations. It's worth a ton of money. You don't have to do it this way, but like, it's also a really high variance move. So I'm early in my career, and I split 10s once, and the ploppy lost his ever-loving mind. Well, the ploppy had 2s and proceeded to get a whole bunch of high cards when he split, and we lost the hand.
Of course.
Because of what the ploppy did. Guess what I got on my next 2 hands? 20s with a 6 up. And I look at him and I go, you're not going to like this. And I split both of them again. The first one I split all 4 times, and by that time, the count had dropped so much. I don't remember if I split the next hand, or if I did split the next hand, it was only once. I remember the first act of hand, it was split 4 times. Fortunately, we won that one. Well, actually, no. I won that one.
Oh, no.
He busted out.
Oh, no. Busted against a 6?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think it was a soft hand.
Oh.
And I think he miscounted.
He just kept going.
Yeah.
I'll tell one other 10 splitting story. You say it's a high variance move. Well, I remember the situation where I got a pair of 10s against a 2, and it was a true 10. And I thought, let's go.
Against the other dealer's ace?
Exactly. So I, table max, split the 10s. I don't remember if I split more than one. So this might not exactly apply to the question, but I do remember splitting. I remember the dealer flipping a 9 for 11. Ace, 10.
Oh,
Let's go.
the ace saved
Come
ya.
on.
It seems like that is the card that saves you when they flip over 11. I don't know if it's just in my brain, but it's like, it always seems like if something's going to save you when they flip an 11, it's an ace, not another card.
Yep. So it does sometimes work, splitting 10. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
sometimes.
I would be shocked if I haven't made significant money on splitting 10s over my career. I just don't remember them all. They all kind of blend together.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Bankai asks, say my usual max bet is above the table maximum at a casino. At what true count should I start playing 3 spot to get more money on the felt? How will this impact my risk? And Jimbo31 also asked about advantages and disadvantages of playing 2 or 3 hands compared to 1. And Bankai's right. So to Jimbo31, I would say there is not an advantage to playing 3 hands unless you are being capped by the table maximum. Like, let's say you want to bet 2 spots of 700, but it's a $500 max. The only way to get more money on the table is to add a 3rd spot. So he's saying at what true count? I don't think it's at what true count. I think it's at what point are you being capped. So I'll give you the math answer, and then I'll give the maybe more practical answer. We did a lot of this. Like I just said, we would go up to 7 spots. When you're being capped by the table max, you can add a 3rd spot. Maybe not if you want to bet 2 spots of 600 and it's a $500 max. I wouldn't add a spot yet. It's when I want to have maybe as much action as I'm not able to bet on it. But do you know what I'm going to say here? The math of it?
Yeah, I think I do. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah. A 3rd spot is not 50% more money.
No.
Because you're eating up more cards. And it does slow the game down, not significantly, but those things do matter. And so I would say you're adding another maybe 20% to your EV, not another 50% to your EV. So it is more EV. But that I would say, Bankai, that's when you would do it, is when you're being capped enough by the table max, not at a true count, but at I'm being limited by the bet. The practical advice is it does look weird. And playing 7 spots is not 7 times more valuable than playing 1 spot. It's not even close.
The only time I ever did that was tables that had $100 max.
It's fun. You got to consider, I don't see gamblers doing that. We did it at casinos that just really didn't care until they cared and we got barred permanently. But for a while they didn't care, so we were just going all out. But it wasn't as much added EV as I think we believed it was. Until I, started to understand the math a little bit better. Hopefully that answers both. Well, Jimbo also asked about advantages and disadvantages of playing 2. He said 2 or 3 hands compared to 1. You always play 2.
Yeah, always. I did switch when I'm getting down to like 3/4 of cards to be played. I will drop to 1 because it's optimal to be playing that 1 hand.
Get more rounds in?
Yes. And then also, it looks really, really weird if you're being ran down or if they think you're a card counter and it counts through the roof and you drop from 2 to 1 hand.
Yeah. So the advantages of playing 2 to 1, if there's other players at the table, it's generally more valuable to have 2 spots because you're getting a higher percentage of the cards. And Don Schlesinger talks about this in Blackjack Attack. At what point? Well, use bank software to figure it out. Heads up. I wrote a really long post on the forum about this. I gave a bunch of examples, but I don't want to call this a cop-out, but people want a simple answer. And honestly, the simple answer is use betting software. Or like our pro betting software will tell you the exact EV of how many spots you're playing. So use that because anything, people are going to quote me on it. And I'll be like, well, did you run the numbers and come to your own decision based on the betting software or just try to follow a simple rule? That's the thing. Card counting. Basic strategy, it's a chart.
Yep.
High-low card counting, it's a system, +1 and -1. Deviations, it's a chart. You get to the betting, and it's not a simple rule set. Like, the simple rule is bet more when you have the advantage, bet less when you don't. But how? You got to use bank software because there are so many variables. Rules, deck penetration, number of players at the table. Not to mention, like, you're dropping to 1 spot because of even to last longer, right? Camouflage or whatever. So it's more nuanced.
Yeah. One thing I'll say about So this goes back to an earlier question about the act and understanding what gamblers do. First, let me say, it is definitely a good move with a small bankroll to move from one hand to two hands. If you watch gamblers, they do not do that. They definitely don't go back and forth. Your two-handed players play two hands all the time, occasionally dropping one to, quote, change the flow of the cards.
Yep.
Or every now and again, they'll throw a hand in, or if somebody steps away from the table because the shoe is hot. But that's about the limit of it. So I like two hands because it is more EV and it does decrease variance. That's probably one of the biggest things about it that I like about it. That does not mean that you're immune from getting destroyed. It's just, it does long term. It clamps down on variance. So I'm a fan of, once you get into the higher bets, if you're going to play two hands the whole time. You can absolutely drop to one, very rarely, especially if you're playing play all. But then there's the whole other theory about eating the cards at min bet and all that stuff. But we're not going to go down that road.
Yeah.
Point is that that's why I stay at two, except in the situation where it's a good count. I'll drop to one at the very end.
Awesome. We're going to finish with a fun one. What is the funniest thing you've ever seen at a blackjack table?
I want you to go first.
Okay. The one that comes to mind, like, I was trying to think of like funny things. I remember being at some casinos where people almost started to fight, and I was secretly rooting to see people throw fists at a casino, and then it got broken up.
Somebody just posted a video like that the other day.
Over splitting tens.
Yeah, we're splitting tens, yeah.
Yes, it's amazing.
Fist fight, full-on fist fight.
I had a hard time thinking of funny things I've seen at the table. I think there have been funny situations that we created doing team play or whatever, but this is what came to mind. We're testing a guy out. We're watching him play at this table, and he gets a hand where it's a double down. Let's say it's a soft something against a 6. He needs more money, so he throws a chip or whatever. And I don't remember what distracted us, but all of a sudden, the dealer's up card was not what we remembered it being. It was like, all of a sudden, it's like a 10. And we're confused because we're testing him out. We're like, why is he trying to double? But we remembered also, my team manager and I were like, we were both there and we're like totally baffled. And so he does the chip thing and like changes his playing decision. What had happened is when he threw the chip, it flipped the dealer's top card and whole card.
Are you kidding me?
Because when the dealer played out there, the whole card was the card we remembered.
Oh my gosh.
It somehow had perfectly flip-flopped them, and like we didn't see it happen in real time.
But the player did.
Well, no, it was like he was confused too.
Oh, okay.
Like all of us were confused until the dealer flipped. It was like, it must have been that when he tossed the chip, it flipped it and we didn't flip the card, because all three of us knew he was making the right decision because it was going to be against a 6. And then all of a sudden, when the dealer gives him change, it's against a 10, but then flips it and there was the 6. So somehow tossing the chip, like, is that funny? I don't know. It was like a 1 in a million.
No, that's pretty funny. Especially, I mean, it doesn't seem like the dealer caught it either.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine isn't like, when I hear this question, I think most likely it's a funny story about ploppies. But the funniest thing that ever happened to me at a blackjack table that I can think of right now is I was returning to a place to play, and I had had a really good session the night before. And it was on grave, and I was coming back on swing. And I had had a friend that I had worked with played with me the night before. So not an AP.
Okay.
I had not seen him forever. And he sees me. And I'm like, son of a, he's going to say my name. Never said my name because I went by a different name. And he sits down and he's hammered. They should not be letting him play. I'll just tell you that right now. So I'm like borderline angry that they're letting him play, but also like this camaraderie and everything looks very natural and whatever. So I have a good night. I think I won 5 or 6K. Well, I go in the next day on swing and there he is sitting at a table, and this is in a high limit room. The tables were really packed. So I walk up to him and I was like, "What's up, man?" I was like, "You're here again?" He's like, "You're here again?" So we start joking, and then I start noticing the suit multiplier starts happening in the pit.
Uh-oh.
And the cut card comes out, and they start half-shoeing my friend's table. I have not sat down. I have not put money on the felt. I have done nothing. They are half-shoeing a table because I am standing there. And I just thought that was the funniest thing in the whole world. I realized right then and there, I'm like, it's over for me. I'm going to stand here and talk to my buddy and make them lose money.
That's right.
And it was probably 3 shoes. I stood there, and then they approached me also. They're just like, "What's up?" And I can't remember the name I was using at the time. They're just like, "So how long you guys known each other?" And then it starts dawning on me. I'm like, "Oh, they think that we're together.
Working together."
I'm like, this is not going to be good for him. So I tell my buddy, I'm like, I'm going to go play craps. So I go out, I go in the bathroom. I call Joe 748 and I'm like, "Joe, should I just cash out or should I just roll out and keep them from like actually backing me off or trespassing me?" And I was pretty sure it was going to be a trespass. Joe will tell you that normally he's like, just go ahead and cash out. Right?
Yeah.
So I decided to do it, and I'm walking down, if you can picture like craps tables splitting the sides of casinos, I'm walking down one path, and I see to my right 2 suits mirroring me on the other path on the other side of the craps tables. And I'm like, I can turn around and go out now, or I can just keep going to the cage. And then they meet me at the intersect, and it's the, "Excuse me, sir?" Yeah, and this guy was really nervous. And I remember telling him, like, "Hey, just so you know, like, I legitimately know that guy from back in the day. I hadn't seen him forever other than like last night and today. He is not the droid you're looking for. He does not do what I do."
Yeah, so you don't get your friend backed off.
Yeah. Then the cage hassling happened, and I was like, I'm not giving. And this guy that backed me off, or 86 me, he was taking forever, and he was like, what's going on? I'm like, "They won't cash me out, man." And he was like, "How much?" And it was, I cashed out like half, so it was only like $3,000. And I said, "It's $3,000." And he immediately goes, "It's only $3,000. Cash him out." And I was like, "Thank you, man."
So at the table, they're being passive aggressive, and they're half shoeing you, and you're costing them money by making them half shoe again. You should have gotten your buddy backed off.
Well, I talked to him the next day. I gave him a call, and I was like, "Did they let you keep playing?" And he goes, "No, man, they didn't."
Oh, that's
and
funny.
I was like, "Oh, dang it, Kyle, I'm sorry. If you ever listen to this, I'm sorry." I was like, "Look, man," I was like, "Here's the thing. I am a winner at casinos," and he didn't completely understand. I was like, "They don't want me to play there. And because you hung out with me and played with me, they assumed this." And he's like, "Well, what the heck? So I can't play anymore?" And I don't know if he ever got to play again. I don't know if they 86'd him or back. I'm not sure.
I had a kind of a similar thing. I've maybe told this story before, but I was picking my brother up at the airport. I don't remember how. Maybe he had like free texting on the flight, but at some point he lets me know he's going to be like another hour. But I'm already right by the airport. So there's a casino right by the airport that's part of a chain that I've been, quote unquote, perma-barred was the phrase they used. But, they can't really bar you from a casino if you've not been in. I don't even have money to play with. I just think I'm going to go scout the game and see how good it is. I haven't been to this casino in a while. I go in there, and right at the front of the casino is a poker game going on. It is one of those little Washington casinos.
Yeah.
Poker games going on. And I notice Zip Brass, who I went to high school with, and I hadn't seen him in 10 years.
Zip Brass?
That's his name.
That's a hell of a name.
Yes. So he makes eye contact with me. Before I can say hi, pit bosses approach me, suits approach me, and I don't even get to say hi. And he gets to watch me get escorted out of the casino. So I think I did see him at a high school reunion, a number of years later, and explain the situation. It's like, "Oh yeah, I saw that, you do that or whatever." But yeah, it probably looked pretty odd to him that I walk in and a bunch of suits walk me right back out.
I'll share one more story. And this is kind of like that story that's really fun because once you get into this, like you'll get the friends like, can I play with you? Tell me what to do, all that stuff. So on 2 occasions, I have played with a friend next to me, both of them in Las Vegas, Nevada. And they both went amazing.
Oh, yeah. Easy money.
Right. But the one particular one, I go on a road trip for the Colts because I'm a Colts fan. Go Horse. And we've been doing this for 22, 23 years. So it was a couple years ago, and we came to Vegas because the 21st year was actually supposed to be in Vegas, but that was 2020, COVID. So we took the opportunity to come see the new stadium. And it's a running joke with them, like they've learned the term AP and typical guys busting balls. So we're at Green Valley Ranch, and these guys insist on playing this single deck game that is 6-5. And they keep asking me to tell them when to bet more money, but like not saying it like that. And there was this joke, they kept saying certain fruits out loud. Like to sound, you guys are ridiculous. And then one of them, I can't remember who, turned around and said, well, will you play with us? I was like, I will on that 3-2 double deck table right there, which that became a long running joke for the rest of the trip too. Like 6-5 is bad. 6-5 is bad. I'm like, You got it, boys.
Yes.
So we sit down at the 3-2 table and I sit at first base and there's 2 guys in the middle and my buddy DC, I hope he listens to this. He's a maniac, first of all. Second of all, he's at third base. Then I notice that his eyes are locked in on me. Like he is going to make a go at this and he is going to move his bets when I move my bets. And he's going to like non-verbally like, do I do this? Do I do that? Right? So I sit down. By the way, I had $5,000 on me. That's it. I'm like, this could go really bad. Yeah. I'm like, this is dumb. But they really wanted it and it's fine. It's EV. If I bust out, I bust out. As soon as a double deck, pretty quickly it went up, and I couldn't help myself. Shout out to you, Joe 748. I rip out 2 bets of $500, even with $5,000 on me.
Was that a fifth of your bankroll?
Yeah. And what happens? Blackjack. And my friends literally go ballistic. So for cover wise, like, it's a good time. It just looks like a group here, you know, for the game or whatever, hanging out. But the funniest thing to me was seeing DC across the way, who had raised his bets to even bigger than mine.
Oh.
And he won. And this whole rest of this double deck shoe, and I you know, how many rounds is left in a double deck with 4 players, but I think it was 6 hands. And I think we won them all.
Oh, wow.
And DC was just so elated. I think he bought steak dinner for us that night. But it was amazing. I won money, but that whole scenario of like, and afterwards I have to tell them, like, I'm like, guys, I really need you to understand that this is not how it always goes.
The one time my father-in-law watched me play blackjack, I couldn't lose, and he was just in awe. I was like, it does not, you know, it goes that way, you know, only half the time or whatever. There's no explaining EV to a ploppy. Well, you can try. Awesome. Well, thank you, SD1, for joining us to give some wisdom, drop some stories on people. And if you want to learn more about card counting, beating, we've got Blackjack Apprenticeship membership, we've got bank software training drills, everything else. And then if you want the gold standard of training, come to a boot camp with us in Vegas, and we'll catch you guys next time.